Thanks for doing this, Kathy. I really do appreciate you spending a few minutes with us to share your story. But as you know, I was so impressed with your results, but also the photographs, the eye-catching photographs, not just your transformation, but there's this young lady climbing a rock wall. I just love that photograph. Could you tell us how this got started for you?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it actually got started quite a while ago. And it wasn't me, it was my husband I have to thank for this, because he actually found this before I did, and he didn't say anything to me about it. But before that, I probably tried every diet there is, every program there is. And 3 years ago, I was doing another program, and I've eaten fermented foods, made my own fermented foods, kefir, kombucha, the veggies, all that. So I always had pieces of the puzzle, but there was something that just wasn't fitting, and it would stall me out, and I just couldn't figure out what it was. It was very frustrating. And you get into your 40s, you get into your 50s, and health problems start. I had just started a new job. I'm a traveling healthcare consultant, so I'm all over the country. And I started developing some concerning cardiac issues and problems. And I started getting a lot of swelling, a lot of inflammation on my flights, and it was a struggle. And I was gaining weight, it wasn't coming off, and I was of the mindset where I had to kill myself with exercise. 3 years ago, I was riding literally hundreds of miles a week on my bike. I was doing 100-mile charity bike rides through the hills of Vermont and Massachusetts. And if you've ever been out here, it's a very hilly place. I was taking CrossFit, doing spin classes. You'd never know to look at me that there was this athlete in there. I was very, very strong, flipping 300-pound tires, and I was also exhausted and not losing any weight. So, and I'd go to my doctor, and my doctor was not happy with me because I'm gaining weight, and she's telling me, you need to move more, you need to exercise more. And my response was, well, what more can I do? Wrestle a grizzly bear? Around the time I was, my husband, who had type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, he on his own found the low carb, high fat diet, and he reversed his diabetes, he reversed his blood pressure, he was losing weight, he was looking great. So for Christmas, I started looking into cookbooks for him, because he also decided that he wanted, he wanted to cook more, which to me is fabulous, of course. So he started cooking. So I found, in the process of looking for cookbooks for him on the low carb, I found the Wheat Belly 30-day cookbook in 30 minutes or less. I found Maria Emmerich's work. So I had stumbled upon all of these other works. And you and other people, Dr. Perlmutter, I had never heard of any of you guys, and I thought, some of this looks pretty good. I've tried everything. What else have I got to lose? And at the time, I was 80 pounds overweight, and my concern, it wasn't so much with the weight loss, because I had decided at that point, I'm not going to lose it. I'm going to just be this way for the rest of my life, and there's nothing I can do, which is, frustrating. So I grabbed the book. I found Wheat Belly Total Health. I found the detox. And on one of my plane trips, I downloaded it to my Kindle. I started reading about it, and it was the opposite of everything that I had been told. And with all of the puzzle pieces that I had gathered throughout all the years, but nobody before finding you, ever said anything about grains. And the typical advice is whole grains are good. You have to eat whole grains, brown rice, wild rice, all that stuff. Corn is fine. So reading that, I thought, this is the complete opposite of everything I've ever done. So this is probably going to work where nothing else has. So I jumped in with both feet. My husband had already been doing it, but it made sense to him. So we both did it together. And I would leave on a Sunday for a business trip. I'd come home on Friday night, and he'd look at me and say, I think you lost 10 pounds. I mean, the weight was falling off. And I thought, well, that's cool. But what I noticed before the weight, because that wasn't my purpose, I had no more swelling in my ankles, and I had started wearing compression hose, and I would just be a giant ball of edema from head to toe, and it was very uncomfortable. and plus my brain was exhausted and foggy, and I've always been kind of a daydreamer, and I've always had kind of a brain fog. And I had noticed that my brain's really clearing up. I'm thinking clearly. I'm flying across the country to different time zones and back and not feeling this jet lag and not being exhausted. And it got to the point where my boss had even noticed that my reports had really improved. And she had said something to me about it. Boy, your reports are really improving. I said, I know, I'm thinking clearly, I'm retaining this stuff. Then I was sleeping great. Even going to different hotels, different time zones, I'm sleeping the best I ever have. And I'm somebody who for years suffered from sleep disorders where I might get one full night's sleep. Might not be a good night, but I get one full night's sleep in a week or 2 weeks. So, that kind of piles on to the exhaustion. So sleeping was clearing up. My joints weren't aching. The swelling went down. My skin cleared up. My hair started growing back because my hair had gotten really thin and it was falling out, and, all this crazy stuff. So, and the cardiac issues slowed down and went away, and at one of the checkups before, they were concerned about Barrett's esophagus, which is a nasty little swallowing disorder. And so my blood pressure, I've always had very low blood pressure, orthostatic hypotension. I get vasovagal responses. I'd pass out. I'd be in the doctor's office and they would think that I was dead because my blood pressure would be so low. It was like 50/25. That's really dangerously low. So with the swollen ankles, and also my feet were like ice. My heart was not pumping enough blood to my limbs to keep them going. So, and low blood pressure is just as dangerous as high blood pressure. Your heart is not working properly. So that improved. I'm pretty sure I was pre-diabetic, but for me it was hypoglycemia, very low blood sugar. So, I noticed that I wasn't getting heart murmurs. I was getting atrial flutter and everything else that was just leading up. And I thought, I'm either going to have a heart attack or a stroke by the time I'm 55. So all of that stuff cleared up, and the weight just came off every week. Which is probably the most fabulous side effect of this whole thing. So it was just wonderful that it all came together. So I'm just very grateful to have found it, because right before then that was it for me. I'm like, I can't try. There's nothing else I can do.
You've lost a considerable amount of weight, haven't you?
A total of 80 pounds, but I know that I put more back on in muscle. So yeah, so it's been 80 pounds, and I've kept it off too. And that's another key thing to this program. If you follow it and you're 100% compliant, you will keep the weight off. I've never been able to do that. Usually you get on a program, all right, 12 weeks, we're going to do this. This is great. Halfway through, you're thinking, I can't wait till this ends so I can eat whatever I want again. And I can go back to the foods that I really miss, and this one, the food is so good. It got rid of all of my cravings, which is a miracle for me. My taste changed.
So how do you feel nowadays?
Oh, I feel fabulous. I feel better in my 50s than in my 20s through 40s put together. And, I wish I had found this decades ago, but I think I appreciate it more now at this age. But I mean, I feel fabulous. I ran a 5K this morning, recovered from a broken ankle.
Right.
The rock climbing is just a lot of fun. My oldest daughter got me into it because my kids can't challenge me enough. And, so she got me up and on the wall, and I just loved it. It's a physical total body challenge.
You look absolutely spectacular.
Thank you.
Kathy, truly, thank you for taking the time to share your story, and I can't wait to share it with everybody else.
Thanks. I really appreciate it.